Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Tome Travelers, a sci-fi fantasy book club podcast. This episode, we are continuing in Warbreaker. We've read Warbreaker chapters 2 through 26 this week, and so there's going to be a spoiler warning for that section of Warbreaker. And we will be discussing some Cosmere tie-ins at the end of the episode, just like last episode. And we'll give you another warning before we do, so that way you can click off of the video or the podcast so you don't get spoiled if you haven't read any of the other Cosmere. But before we get into all that, Whitson, we have a community fantasy question.
Yeah, our first one from the YouTube comments. It's what is y'all's favorite adaptation of a sci-fi or fantasy book? Also, what's your least favorite adaptation? And that's from Riley A on YouTube.
All right.
So who wants to kick it off? Who wants to take it first?
Dylan, why don't you kick it off?
Yep. I'll go first. So I was just looking at these. There's way more worse ones than I thought there was, but the one that really stood out to me was Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I remember.
Oh, you stole mine. Oh.
I remember being in middle school and reading these books and with Whitson, and we loved these books. And then the movie came out, and I wanted to cry. I was like, what did they do? What is this terrible movie? And then my favorite one, though, is I kind of went basic and I picked Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, the Peter Jackson.
Those are two very easily defensible points, though. One is the token awful adaptation, and the other is the token fantastic adaptation.
Yeah.
Even though Lord of the Rings doesn't have Tom Bombadil, it's still one of the best.
Hey, you want to take it next, MD?
Yeah. So my least favorite, I was gonna say Aragon, just because I remember reading the books and that was probably, other than The Hobbit, my first experience with fantasy and stuff, and I just loved it. And then I go to see the movie, and I'm like, "What am I watching?"
I agree, 100%. Yeah,
this is nothing.
For sure.
I think I threw my copy away.
Yeah. And then for favorite adaptation, I feel like I genuinely would also say Lord of the Rings, but I kind of don't want to say that just because Dylan's already said it, and also it's very cliche. So I'm gonna come with an honorable mention as mine, and it's really out of left field here. I'm gonna choose Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Okay.
That seems like a stretch for a sci-fi fantasy, but okay.
It's science fiction. It's science fiction.
There's food falling from the sky. I
Yeah.
got it.
You know what I'm saying?
And they really upgraded on the book, so you really can't.
Right. And it's a really good movie, but they also take a lot of the stuff that's in the books. They take the artwork in the books and they put it in the movie, which I think is kind of lit. But yeah. So I'm gonna go with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs for mine.
I like it.
Fantastic.
All right, Whitson, what you got?
Okay. So my favorite one is my favorite because it's so bad, and it's the 1984 Dune.
Oh my gosh!
Particularly horrible movie that is so much fun to watch. And it's one of my favorite sci-fi books, so that works out. Least favorite, man, I was gonna pick Percy Jackson. I'm trying to think of an honorable mention.
It's so bad.
It's
so bad you can pick it twice.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's true.
Okay, yeah, Percy Jackson then. Percy Jackson.
Oh man. Yeah. Those are some good and some bad ones. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Oh, they were supposed to be redoing it in a series, I think, and I'm like, I don't even want to watch it.
Well, I think Disney Plus is making a TV show out of it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, when we were in middle school, we loved those books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Man, there's so many adaptations being planned. I mean, Kingkiller Chronicles has an adaptation planned. Sanderson has talked a bunch about some different adaptations. It's just going to be a grab bag of awful and or amazing. It could be the next Game of Thrones, any of them.
Yeah.
It could be the next Game of Thrones, or it could be absolutely horrible. But I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm still going to buy a ticket,
Yep.
So you guys leave a comment in the YouTube of this video or a previous video of another question we might want to answer on a future episode, and we might answer it for you guys.
And thanks, Riley A.
Thank you, Riley, for the first
honorable
question.
first question.
Honorable, yes, this is very good. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into episode 5 of the Tome Travelers.
Ba-da-bum-bum.
Do-do-do-do-do.
All right, so we just finished the first part of Warbreaker. We stopped on chapter 26, and we see in the first part we see Ciri traveling to Tellar to be the God King's bride. She's really confused at first and scared, and it's like a whole new world for her. But like as that first part starts going on, we see her kind of coming to her own, start figuring things out, and even start getting a little rebellious, which I like. And then we're also introduced to another named character named Lightsong. He's a returned, which is like their gods. He's very lazy, doesn't want to do anything, very witty, charming. He's probably my favorite character in the book so far. He's got no interest in anything going on around him at all, but as the book goes on, we see him start getting into politics, and especially interested in Ciri and wanting to keep her from getting thrown to the wolves. And then lastly, we see Vivienne or Vivienne or
Vivenna.
Vivenna. Yeah, her name's like Vivienne. We see her traveling to Tellar to save Ciri and prevent war. She meets some interesting mercenaries along the way and gets challenged pretty severely with her religion and like what she believes and what's going on around her. And
That's where we're at.
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
So, what did you guys think about this like section of text that we've read so far? What were your impressions of it?
Okay, I'll take the ball. I'm going to start with the positives, and I have some complaints, but I have some positives. Vasher, very mysterious, very cool. It's just definitely like a really cool side plot that I'm sure is going to be really important to the entire plot later in the book. That's made me excited every time I've turned a page and seen something about Vasher. Ciri is very like authentic to the character that was like set up. Like she's naive, but she's strong-willed. Like I like Ciri as a character. Sisebron is pretty cool. I'm interested to see where that goes. I like him a lot more as like this broken, or not broken because he's like pretty positive about the whole thing. But you know, he's this abused figurehead, and that's way more interesting to me than just like a god king.
Right.
So that's where I'm at on the positives. But for the negatives, Sanderson, when he gets like stream of consciously with his books, sometimes hits me like Adam West Batman. like G. Jolly Willikers, that was horrible. Like I don't know how to verbalize the way it makes me feel, but I just cringe sometimes. And there's been more of that in this book to me than the other Sanderson stuff that I've read.
Storm you.
So this book did come out before like the Stormlight Archive and stuff like that.
It's one of his.
It's an
it's
earlier
one of his
book,
first books. I think he did it after he did Elantris, right?
It's way closer to Elantris in quality to me than Mistborn or Stormlight Archive.
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of stuff in this book that I think he got over later on, but there's some things that are like I'm really getting caught on.
Yeah. I think also at this time, in defense of Sanderson, is he was finishing the Wheel of Time series for Robert Jordan at the same time he was writing this book. And so like he couldn't, I mean, he could, but he didn't put all of his, thought and effort into it. Although I love what he gave me. So
that's totally fair. Like I said, I like a lot of his other works. It's just this one feels particularly stream of conscious to me. Like from brain to page, out the door of the publisher. Like that's how it feels sometimes.
So I feel like I kind of agree with that a little bit. I feel like this book to me more like, because I go into most books trying to focus on positive stuff, and so like I can look over the negative stuff real easy. And so like what I'm going into this book seeing a lot of is I love the magic system. Like I'm really interested in that. The world building I feel is awesome. Like I'm imagining like all these bright colors and all these people dressed real weird, and like in the Core of the Gods you got this huge black pyramid with like these multicolored mansions around it. Like I love the setting. um I'll
If I
agree.
can jump in for just a second, I will say setting and magic system are the things that he always does really well.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I can't take anything away from him on his world building and his magic systems. And that's definitely in this book too.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I was expecting going in. I was expecting more action, and there's a way more political intrigue, which I'm okay with as far as because I like political intrigue too and figuring things out. But I I feel like maybe there should be more clues as to what's going on. Like I feel like it's all like everything they gives you is more up in your face. I mean, I know there's some little stuff that they sprinkle in as far as clue wise, which we'll talk about once we start getting into the meat of this. But I feel like maybe I can definitely tell it's an earlier book of his, is what I should say, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, MD?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. Like even going through on my this is my second read through of it, and so like as I'm going through, I'm noticing a lot of things I didn't the first time, and so I'm really enjoying. Sanderson has really good reread quality, and so I'm really enjoying picking this up. Like for this episode, I have 3 pages of notes that I wrote down. Probably not going to get to all of them in this podcast.
Oh no, I always have way more notes than I get to.
Yeah. But it was just, I'd be reading a chapter and I'd be like, no way, and I'd write that down, and then I'd keep going. I'd be like, no way. It's just I really like the fact that the books have that reread ability, because some books don't really have that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
we meet Lightsong. Let's talk about him first.
So I think he was chapter 3 was whenever we first
His
meet
first
Lightsong.
chapter. Yep.
And you're introduced to one of the gods. He is, kind of considered royalty at this court, and he is a god. He's a returned, which means that he died and came back to life. And
he died a valiant death.
Right.
That's why he's Lightsong the Brave.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of Lightsong?
I absolutely love Lightsong, which I love witty characters, but he also seems like, I don't know, like he seems like, it seems like all these other gods are like really vain and like more worried about what they're doing and stuff, and then like he's just like almost like we were talking about how Glocta was, like he's just got like this outside perspective of everything, and it's just like he's like not about it. At one point he's like, I think I'm the only god that doesn't believe in my own religion.
Yeah. Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and he actually seems like he has morals. I mean, obviously not to a point where he's necessarily a decent person, but like he knows he's not a decent person, And like I feel like all the other gods don't know that. Like they're like, I'm a god.
They're not self-aware at all.
Yeah, they're not but he is like
yeah, he's looking at the reader going, are you seeing this? Do you guys see this?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I love his sense of humor. Like at multiple points, he's like trying to get drunk. And Larimar is like, you can't get drunk. He's like, but I like trying. It's just like, it just cracks me up.
Yeah, I really like how it, like, even though Lightsong is considered a god, it really humanizes him a lot. Like, whenever each week he has to go and take someone's breath in order to stay alive. And I'm pretty sure the opening scene with him is him taking like a little girl's breath.
Yeah.
And even he was like, Laramir, do I have to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's like, why is it always got to be a kid?
Yeah.
Too.
And so I really find it interesting that like his character is a literal god who doesn't believe he should be a god, and he's just kind of like, well, if I am, I'm just gonna indulge in everything that I want to. Yeah.
Well, he's like, my biggest question so far is like, what can they do besides give the one breath to somebody? Like, can they do? I know they have perfect bodies, which like that's cool. Right. But I mean, can they do anything else with this like crazy biochroma?
Right. Well,
it
says they're all at the 5th heightening.
Right.
Just from their one breath. It says their one breath is as powerful as the 5th heightening for normal people, which I forgot how many breaths that normally is. I think it's it's
2,000. So 2,000. In the back of the most Sanderson books, there's an Ars Arcanum that has like the basics, non-spoiling the magic system. And so they're all of the fifth heightening, and the fifth heightening's effects are agelessness, perfect life recognition, perfect color recognition, perfect pitch, and aura recognition.
Yeah.
So, with them being, fifth heightening, they don't age. So,
Right. Well, I know he also controls a quarter of the Lifeless Army. I think that's 10,000 soldiers. He's got the commands for them.
right. It's like having
Which
the
I
loot
think's interesting.
codes.
Right, which we'll get into what I think about the priests later, but I'm sure they have all the commands too.
Yeah, or
But
that seems to be where it's pointing, right? Like
yeah,
the
100%.
priests are just like giving them like something to feel good about themselves, but in reality they're
It's
just
like
decorations.
yeah, it's like Pinocchio or Pinocchio's Island or what's that island where it's just like y'all indulge, but like here's what's really going on. like it's more of like a distraction. They want the people to be distracted by the gods and the gods to be distracted by frivolity.
Well, yeah, self-righteousness, literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
You are righteous. Have fun with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, though, because he doesn't believe he's a god, and he's always giving Larimar, however you say his name, shit, which I think's hilarious. But he at one point he's like, it's raining and he doesn't want it to rain, and he's like, if I'm a god, shouldn't the rain stop? And then Scoots brings up the other gods, and which is Larimar's nickname, and Light Song wants to go around taking polls and hope more gods want it not to rain so he can cause a theological crisis.
Yeah.
And I
And
laugh
then
my ass
Laramar's
off at that.
justification is, well, your soul knows that rain
Yeah,
is good.
yeah. Subconsciously, you want it to rain.
Yeah.
Which seems to be like his go-to thing is like subconsciously you want this to happen. And
Right.
Light Song's like, what do I say to this?
We also got a little, like, a reveal from Laramir that we probably shouldn't have gotten when he
Yeah.
accidentally slipped that he knew Light Song in his previous
Yes.
life.
Yep. Well, you can see it also kind of throughout the book, even if he doesn't say anything, because of the way he treats him. Like he puts up with his stuff. He acts real familiar with him, and I feel like the other priests don't really show that. They're more like worshiping or like underhanded. And Larimore actually acts like he cares about him. At one point, like they're all having a festival, and he's supposed to be with his family, and he comes to check on him, and
Yeah.
he puts up with all his whims and.
All the
Right.
shit that Light Song puts him through.
Yeah, or all the snide comments. Light Song's like, "Hey, you should really be remembering some of this and use it later."
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you mentioned earlier, Whitson, that you think there's something going on with the priests. Do you think Laramir is involved in that?
Oh man, I don't know. I think there could be a couple different angles where like Laramar knows what's going on and he's there to protect Lightsong from it, or he knows what's going on and he thinks that it's a just cause, or he doesn't know what's going on. I think those are kind of the three options.
So here's my Bluefinger mentions a bunch of different factions, and one of I forgot who it is. Maybe okay, yeah, it's in Vasher's chapter. He's talking about the priests that gave him the information, talking about don't go to some of the gods because their people don't know stuff. I think maybe that Lightsong's one of those. Like he's not part of the political aspect of it, and so I feel like he's probably like on the outside of it.
Yeah, that would make some sense.
Yeah.
Because clearly he's not scheming. I mean,
Yeah.
unless we have like an untrustworthy like narrator, I guess, which would
Right.
be cool. But
Yeah, well, I mean, he just doesn't give that vibe off, and like I said, we think he cares about Lightsong, and so Lightsong's investigating all this stuff, and he doesn't
Right.
really act like he knows. You know what I mean?
Yep. The paintings are also something that I'm really curious about as far as like Lightsong and Laramir goes. Well, I'll save it. I'll save it for Cosmere tie-ins.
Okay.
Oh, okay?
All right. Real quick though, while we are talking about the painting, because I do want to bring up, like they have these. What are they called? The not the commissions or the
Petitions.
The petitions. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Where they have to wake up and like the gods have to be like, oh, this makes me feel this way, or this makes me feel this way, and doing so is like a divine like blessing upon people if it's good or bad or whatever. So what are you guys thinking about that?
Well, so
That's
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, no, you go because I was gonna ask a question about a question. So you start.
Okay. Well, so I think it's the first painting that he actually gets something out of, the one with the war scene,
Yep.
where he sees what he thinks or what Larimar thinks is Nightblood.
Well,
Um,
he doesn't know
Laramir doesn't
that's
see
the sword.
anything. Light Song's the one
Yeah,
right.
that
He
Lamer.
sees. Yeah.
but he thinks it's the black sword that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the priests mention, uh, the one that Vasher is carrying.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I'm curious if maybe he does have some kind of prophetic power, and he's just not taking it seriously. So he has like some confirmation bias around it not being real. You know, I don't know if that makes sense.
See, I almost feel like maybe it's got more to do with he talks about how when he's investigating, asking questions, it feels natural, and he must have done something like that before he died. He uses the word case, so I'm thinking maybe he used to be a detective or something. Whatever that would entail in this
Right.
day and age, in this setting. But also, like, we don't know how old he is. We don't know how he died. He could have been at that battle. Because what battle was it? It was like the
It
last
was
battle in the mini
the
war.
Battle of the Twilight Falls, which was the
Yeah.
last conflict of the mini war.
Who's to say like he wasn't there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, the mini war was
presume.
hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, presumably like Larimar would have to have been alive then too. But
Okay, but
maybe he could have been at the Fifth Heightening and like gave up his breath to come be a
right.
priest for Lightsong or
Well,
something.
Okay.
that's what I'm gonna say because like we see these older or these people that we see Vasher who is mentioned being really old or like he used to like way in the and then we also see at one point Denth, which is one of the mercenaries we'll get into that's with Vivenna. Um, he talks about how he is really old and his family like used to worship gods that aren't even around anymore. So like I feel like age isn't as big of an issue as we're seeing it as probably.
Yeah, because of the agelessness
Yeah, the
of the Fifth
agelessness.
Heightening. Or I'm sure they age slower at lower heightenings. I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know if it says that explicitly, but
No, it does when they're talking about the spa. He
oh,
was
okay.
trying to get more. He was trying to get more breast because it would extend his life.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, where do we want to go from Light Song? Do we want to go to Vasher?
Yeah.
Uh,
Unless there's anything else you want to hit on.
well, I was just gonna say. So, okay, well, I guess that's a Cosmere tie-in. I was just gonna talk about the dreams that the priests are having,
You mean the
or
gods?
the gods are having. Like, why are the priests so interested in these dreams?
Yeah. Well, they think that they're prophetic in some way, but
Right.
But
why do they
okay,
need fortune tellers?
well, like,
Would
here's my
be
deal though. Like, I don't feel like they actually think they're like. I don't feel like most of the priests that actually know what's going on don't actually feel it. I feel like this religion is a sham to do whatever underhanded shit they're doing.
yeah. No, I'm with you. I kind of, but I feel like they might actually think it's prophetic, and they're using it
Maybe.
to reach whatever their goal might be. I mean, we really don't have any idea yet what their
Yeah.
goal would be.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Because like you would think it would be like world domination or something. Oh, okay, okay. In our broader points about the section of text that we read, I had some things that I wanted to bring up and ask you guys because I might have just missed them,
Okay.
or been stupid while listening to the book. So they are Idrians from Idris, but they want to take back Hallandren.
Yeah. So
I what? Huh?
They're, the royal family originally was from Hallandren.
right.
Okay, so Hallandren is I guess is like the continent, and to Tellar is the city
The
that the
city,
gods are in, and that
right?
was originally the royal family city, and but they got kicked out for I think it said that, which
Well, at
this
the
might
end
not be
of
the
the mini
actual reason.
war,
Yeah, well
when
it
the
was
lifeless came back, they got kicked out for some reason.
Yeah,
But my
yeah
okay, my
they
thing
were
is
shoved to the mountains.
yeah
like they refer to themselves as Idrians. They reside in Idris. They are culturally Idrian. They are distinctly different from the Hallandren. So like what I don't understand the political conflict, I guess is what I'm
So-
getting
Blood,
at. Like,
just blood, just blood.
Yeah,
like it
so
would be for any
basically,
other.
like, it could also been like a situation where, whenever whoever current Hallandren is came through and booted them out, they changed the name to Hallandren, and they changed the culture. That was one of the reasons for the government overthrow, was because they didn't like the Idrians, religion and their societal, you have to be like humble and you can't, be extravagant. Colors are bad or whatever. People were like, what do you mean? There's science to do with this. We need to study these and things like that. So
yeah. Well, it just seems like a one-sided conflict to me because the only thing that the Hallandren people care about is like the tariffs on their imports and
right.
the routes through the mountains. But
Which
the
it talks about they
Idrians-
don't even need because they're making so much money.
Right.
Yeah,
I feel
and
like
then the Idrians are scared of like total annihilation. So it's like the
Right, well,
Hallandren
it's
could
because
just demand
they're
whatever they wanted.
it's because they're so small. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the Idrians just don't want to like disappear,
Go to war.
because they're so small. And the Hallandrens want the Idrian bloodline on their thrones so that their throne is more legitimate.
Yeah.
So, like,
Again,
they're
I feel like
playing.
there's a lot of like under the rug type of shit going on that has to do with your question. Like I don't
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
we have
saying,
one. Yeah.
I'm saying either I think that this is part of the priests like game that they're playing where they're manufacturing this one-sided conflict for some particular reason, or yeah, I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at with it. I think that there's got to be something else going on, because the trade routes through the mountains, Hallandren could just demand those and the daughter and just promise to not annihilate them. And there you go, problem solved.
I really think they want the blood. I really think they want the blood first. So they took the path of least resistance to get the blood. I think once they have the blood, they'll go to war. They'll just go take what they want. But there's something about this blood that is really important, and I'm assuming I think it's got something to do with the color, that like the way they can change their hair color and stuff. Maybe making awakeners stronger. Like if you're awakened and you have that blood, maybe because you've always got color on you,
Yeah,
making you stronger. Something to do with that.
like you use a color and then change your hair and use that
Yeah.
color and change your hair and use that color.
Yeah.
I guess it hasn't really done the greatest job of explaining how color fuels the magic.
No, but it mentions multiple times how it drains color around it.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
no,
move
it does
Yeah.
mention it, but that's the part of the magic system I'm a little confused on. I get the security phrases, I get
Yeah.
the breaths, and I don't really care that it's not specific about how many breaths things should take. That
Yeah.
that doesn't really matter that much. The color thing I'm a little interested about. Like, so the priest's hand turning gray.
That was because of Night Blood, though.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Right.
that makes a little bit more sense.
And we'll talk about that in Cosmere.
Yeah,
Times.
yeah, I was gonna say we'll talk about that. So we can't quit talking about Light Song without talking
Yes.
about Blush Weaver.
True.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So
She
she's-
seems like a real schemer.
Oh, very political, and good at it. Good at a lot of things, I'm assuming.
Oh, okay.
And she tries to get him in the bedroom every time
Every
they talk.
scene. I think that's why though, because he keeps blowing her off, which makes me love his character even more.
Yeah.
He's just not about. My favorite part, or my favorite interaction between them two, is when he gives her the paper that has their conversation on it.
Yeah,
Before
yeah,
he,
that was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
But she's trying to get. I think she's trying to get all these people that have the command words on her side.
Right.
Got Light Song, got Moon. What's the other one?
Oh, Moon. Oh, what's her
Mercy
name?
Star.
Mercy Star. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end of in chapter 26, we see that Mercy Star went to go visit another one of them to try to get them on their side.
Right. So there's definitely a member of the gods trying to get all of the codes for the nuke, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
and Light Song was trying to give it away in the first place until she asked for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he was like, well, can't I just give the command words away? Like, I don't care. And then she asks him for it, and he's like, whoa, hold up.
These are
up.
mine.
want
Yeah,
these?
like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think again, like his moral compass kind of kicked in right there. And he's like, usually someone who wants power doesn't need power,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move
But-
on to Vasher. We've been on Light Song for a while. So we got a little bit of Vasher. He's still got this kind of like mysteriousness around him. And he's carrying Nightblood, a sword that's talking to him. You know, we got to see him in the prologue, and Whitson was, I know you were like, what is this sentient sword and things like that. So have you been excited about, reading about it, or do you have some things that you have answered, some other things that you still have unanswered? What's going on?
Well, I still have no idea what his goal in the city is. I don't think that there's any real way to deduce that so far. But
it's got
his
something to do with the war is all we
yeah, it has something to do with the war, it seems like. But then the fact that his path, he's from the same group as Denth, that's cool. That's interesting. Also, Denth, I wish Denth was maybe a little more focused on. Vasher too. They're probably the coolest parts of the book so far to me.
I love Denth. He's probably my second favorite character.
I love the mercenary humor between him and Tongfa.
Yeah.
That's also been really, really funny. I just wish that we had seen more of him, but hopefully he's a bigger part of the second half of the book.
So I definitely think he is involved in something in the war. It mentions that he shows up at the council and recognizes Vivenna, and then he also knows when Ciri comes to town, he's like, we're probably gonna have to deal with her. So it's definitely got something to do around what's going on in the political aspect of it.
Yeah.
But he does have his own agenda, and we see him go in that trap door that the priests have, which we know nothing about yet either.
Right.
Also, the squirrel thing. The squirrel thing was so funny. Go bite anything that's not me.
Yeah.
And then squirrel's just thrashing around.
Yeah. And like you said, it talks about Nightblood, and we get a little more information about Nightblood. It can sense life and people, which it's supposed to protect, in quotation marks there. And it kind of reminds me of the way he's talking about it, and Vasher's it's amazing how protect ends up becoming destroy. It reminds me of an AI, like Terminator or something. It's hey, you're supposed to protect humans, and then it's well, the only way to protect y'all is to destroy y'all and start over. So it kind of gave me that vibes. And then he also mentions that the sword can't tempt the hearts of men who are pure.
Yep.
So maybe it brings out the evil in people's hearts, or the greed or something.
Yeah. Well, and then that one priest that tried to draw him survived, but then the other one died.
So there's more to that, I believe. So I've got two, because at the end it's Light Song's talking about when he's doing his investigating, his sleuthing. He's talking about how
there was a second
intruder. Person, but I almost believe that one of the priests killed him. The guy that was tied up saw Vasher go in the trap door, and then he told the priest where he went, and then the priest killed him. But
yeah, that would make sense.
But whoever was following Vasher could have done it too, which I'm assuming is Denth, but we don't know that at all yet. Just that it was done with a dueling blade, which would make sense because Denth, I believe, carries dueling blades. Yeah. So those are my two ideas as far as that.
Yeah. Oh, also the hand tassels thing. That was some pretty cool imagery. I thought that scene was really well written. That was fun.
Yeah.
I just pictured him having this giant claw made out of cloth.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but that's really all we have on him so far. I'm hoping some more chapters pop up.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot on Vasher for this section, but we'll see what happens.
So let's talk about my absolute least favorite character.
Oh yeah,
Vivenna. Okay. Let's talk about this girl.
All right. So what don't you like about her?
Okay, first off, she's pretentious. She's I don't know. So when we first see her, she's walking into the city, and she's like, okay, I'm inexperienced. I need to be open-minded to things that are around me. And I was like, okay, that's really smart. And then we don't see her do that at all. She is the exact opposite. She's judgy. She's naive. She's not keeping an open mind at all. And even when Denth is using extremely sound logic, which is another reason I love his characters, how logical he is about stuff. Like he's given her like very logical examples. Like, well, would you be mad at the person who used a sword, or a blacksmith that made a sword who killed his friend? Like he gives so many examples to her of why she needs to use the breath of the lifeless, and she's just like, but my religion. And it's just
Yeah.
like, eh.
It
And then
also.
she
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was gonna say, and then she gets in a fight with Jules, and Jules is like just as passionate about her religion as Vivenna is, and she's just like, "You can't believe that," and she's just like, and when they get done, she's like, "Oh, she must just been no mood for sympathy." It's just like, I don't know, she's just like a zealot almost.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like her character just doesn't make sense. She's been raised her entire life to go to the Hallandren court and be prepared, and she is shocked by everything in Hallandren. She's appalled. She judges everyone. She is completely certain of her religion. And then like Jules is even like, well, at least you can go talk to my gods. Like you can see
Yeah.
them. They
Yeah.
physically exist. And she's like, oh, well, that's whatever. It doesn't matter. They're not actually gods, so it doesn't matter. And then like she also Denth and Tong Fa should have just killed her and taken her money and ran off. I don't understand why she's still around. She is
So
the
I think
reason
they,
I'm struggling with this book. Like
I,
she is so 2D to me.
I agree with all those points except the Dent thing. I think they have an
Ulterior motive.
ulterior motive. I
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
There's a reason that they are where they're at. I don't think they would have ever done that because they need her for some reason.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I agree with the rest of it. Like I feel like, and she even says at multiple points, she's like, I'm not doing anything. Dent is doing all this shit for me. Like I'm just basically just here. I show my hair, and it's just like, okay. Like, can we grow a little bit? And in that, I will say, in that last chapter, when she does get in fight with Jules, she says, "Well, maybe I deserve the way Jules reacted," but I still don't feel like she's growing quick enough. I feel like she needs to learn to use the breath. She needs to get over the lifeless stuff. And like you said, like she trained her whole life to go to this place, but she is like disgusted with it. And it's just like it's okay, I get it. You're a devout in your religion, but like you're basically in a life or death situation. Like it's time to kind of grow up and
Yeah, do you care about saving your little sister and preventing
in
everyone
your
you know
country.
from dying?
Yeah.
Well, but you
Or
know,
do you
like
not?
talking about, training her whole life for it. She was trained her whole life for court politics, and now she's trying to like politic with thieves and smugglers and bandits and rebels and things like that, which are kind
Yeah,
of completely different things.
It makes some sense that Denth is having to like guide her through this.
Right.
That makes some
Right.
amount of
I
sense.
agree with that, yes.
But the fact that every time she sees anyone in anything colorful, she's aghast. Anytime she sees someone with a plunging neckline, she's aghast. Like how did she not know anything about their culture after having
Right.
trained her entire life to be a part of it?
The part of court politics is blending in with the court and knowing their culture and saying the right things and wearing the right things. So like I get where you're coming from, but at the same time it's like she just, I don't know. I feel like she can be appalled with it, but like she should still be able to use it to her advantage.
Yeah,
If
she
that-
should be
yeah.
above it. I
Yeah.
think. Like, especially with her personality, where she's so self-righteous. Like, I feel like she should be able to hover above it, kind of. Like almost. God, I feel like she's almost a prototype for Yasna, but shitty.
Shitty, hasn't it?
Yeah, basically. Like that's the kind of personality type that Sanderson was going for with her, but like she's not graceful about any of it. She's just obtuse.
Yeah.
Like she's
Well, like,
always obtuse.
I thought one of the funny scenes with her was like it's at series perspective, and she's picking out this beautiful dress, and she's like, "Hey, this actually looks pretty good." Like it's not what I'm used to, and like I'm kind of uncomfortable, but I'm happy, I'm enjoying where I'm at, kind of. And then like Vivenna walks in and sees her in it, and they're like, they're forcing my sister to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
She
just
also
like
has like a
Siri,
crazy
Siri,
savior complex.
Yeah.
yeah, Siri literally just picked that dress 5 minutes ago. Like they didn't force her to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I,
do we
I'm
think she's gonna
curious.
actually use the breath though?
I think she's gonna have to. Like, she's gonna.
I
I think
agree.
she's gonna be
Yeah.
put into some kind of life or death situation where she'll have to, or she'll just try to save somebody and like martyr herself. Maybe
Yeah.
I could
Well, do you
also
think?
see that.
What do you think? Do you see Denth convincing her at any point that this stuff's okay to use,
I think
or
she's
you
too
think
much of a
she's just?
zealot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm probably
We
wrong
also
about that
find out.
though.
We also find out though that you can't give you if you give a breath away, you have to give all of it away. You can't
Yeah.
you can't give one at a time, which I didn't know until we see that scene with her. She's like, "Can I give this person a breath?" And he's like, "No, if you give one away, you give all of it away."
Yeah, that was interesting. That made her problem
Much
a
more
little
difficult.
more.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
her. But even like when she sees that her dad gave permission
Yeah, I was gonna bring
Limix
that up.
for
So
Limix to use the breath.
yeah, you have in King Daedalin's letter, which they found, like King Daedalin and Idris has been funding these guys to buy other people's breaths, which, according to their religion, are the souls of other people. A little
yep.
heretical.
And you will be eternally damned by Astra
Yeah.
Yeah.
for
But we're
taking
gonna do it
breaths.
anyways. We're gonna do it anyways. And then I'm gonna send my daughter to die because I like Vivenna more.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say. So
And then
I know.
Vivenna's gonna go
Yeah.
anyways.
So I know
Yeah.
last episode you guys were like, "F King Daedalin, we don't like him." What do you think about King Daedalin now?
Like him even less.
Again, yeah. Like I get he's doing what he's got to do for his kingdom. Like I respect that 100%. But
Right.
like,
But then
don't
you
be
compare.
hypocritical about it. You know?
Yeah. My thing is like, oh, okay. You know what? I'll save it. I'll save it for Cosmere tie-ins.
All right.
I don't want to
All
spoil
right.
anything.
All right.
Well, do you have anything else you want to say about Vivenna then, Matt?
No, I'm good. I'm good with her.
We want to talk about the chaos she's generating in the city, which is mostly Denth, but
Wait, well, she's basically just trying to disrupt the city's supplies and things like that. So when the war breaks out, because she had the realization that the war is going to break out. That's why her dad sent Ciri instead of her. Things like that.
Yeah.
The war's going to break
Yeah.
out. The least she can do is help out from inside the city. And so
right.
I will say there was one good scene that was with Vivenna, like in Vivenna's like POV. Her and Denth in the bar that's owned by the mob boss. I thought that scene was pretty cool, if only because it gave me like kind of heisty vibes
yeah.
a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're going into the mob boss's lair, and like he's testing you, and he might track you back to where you're staying. Like that chapter was pretty cool.
Yeah. I feel like if we're going to talk about that chapter, we have to really talk about Denth with his inhumanly quick speed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do we think Denth is?
Again, I'm gonna save that for Cosmere tie-ins.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah. But we do find out though that he hates Vasher. He killed his friend Arstil, I believe.
Mhm.
Which is they were a 4-man group, and which I think Whitson, you said Vasher was a part of their group earlier. He wasn't a part of their group. It was him, Jules, Arstil, and Tonkfa. And then for some reason Vasher killed Arstil. But I feel like maybe Denth and Arstil, or Denth and Vasher knew each other before that, possibly. Like I said, they both talk about how maybe they're a little older.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how would? So I just assumed that he was part of their group and betrayed them. Because I was like, well, how would they know it was Vasher if they didn't have a past with him?
Right.
But it could be for totally different reasons.
Yeah, they could have just crossed paths doing their own separate things. I'm wondering how Vasher got a hold of Nightblood too.
Yeah,
And
or
I'm wondering,
if he's the first one to
yeah,
have
well,
Nightblood.
Denth seems to know something about it, kind of the way he talks,
Yeah.
maybe. But and then at one point Vivian asked Denth, she's like, who did you used to be? And he's like, you don't want to know. And so like he's really got an air of mystery to his character, which is another reason I love him, because we're kind of trying to figure out who he is, what he is, all that. But also just I love how logical he is and how he describes stuff to Vivenna. Like he just puts it in such blatant terms, like logical terms that anyone with a brain would be able to like, okay, that makes sense. And she's just like,
Yeah, somehow
nah.
she's still dumbfounded.
Yeah, like nah, I'm good.
Logic, I don't know.
Hard,
This
hard,
religious zealotism,
hard.
that seems more interesting to me.
So real quick, I'm gonna read to you one little line that was in the prologue that you might have
Okay.
forgotten about. It's right after Var gives Vasher his breaths. He says, "Keep your part of the bargain," Var said. Vasher noted the tones, blah, blah, blah. He gained perfect pitch, a gift for anyone who reaches the second heightening. It would be good to have that again. Vasher could, of course, have up to the fifth heightening at any time, if he wished. That would require certain sacrifices he wasn't willing to make.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that line in a while. So is he
Well, I remember
returned?
that line. No, surely not. I remember that line, but I thought it had something maybe more to do with Nightblood. But I will say it just said he got Var's um breath, and he was only at the second awakening. But in this part, we're seeing him at the fifth awakening, right? So maybe he took breath from Arsteel.
Well, do we know he's at the fifth heightening right now?
Right now,
I believe it said he was at the fifth.
he's at
heightening.
the second heightening right now.
Really? I thought it said something. About him
Unless
being at
he's
the fifth
gathered
heightening.
more since the prologue, which he might have. But at the prologue, it said he had now gained perfect pitch, a gift for anyone who reached the second heightening.
Well, I thought that Vivenna, because Vivenna's at what, the third heightening?
Yeah, something like that.
I think she's at the third heightening. I thought when she sees him in the council room, she notices that his aura is brighter than hers. And I thought it mentioned.
Oh, wait, yeah, no, you're
You're right.
I-
Yeah, so
yeah, I think you're right about that.
I
might
thought
have
it
been-
mentioned something about him being at the fifth heightening somewhere. I could be wrong completely, but
I don't know if it specified fifth, but you're right about that scene in the courtyard where she sees Vasher
yeah.
when they're at the coronation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they're presenting her to the court, when they're
Yeah.
presenting
Yeah,
Siri.
or yeah, not the coronation.
It's
But
Coronation Day. No.
Coronation.
All right. Well, speaking of presenting, who were they presenting to the court?
Siri.
See,
Let's talk about Siri. So, in the beginning, Siri, we were like kind of worried about her. We were like, oh no, she's getting sent off to this God King. We're kind of scared for her. We didn't know what was going to happen. What did you think when, she finally realized what was up with the God King?
Well, I was relieved.
yeah. Well,
Personally.
I was like, I don't know. Like I saw, like I don't know. I was almost thought the God King was a lifeless up to that point.
Okay.
Like because like he just didn't ever do anything, and then like we see that he's got his tongue cut out and he's basically a child, and I'm interested to see where the plot goes from that if she can somehow control him.
Yeah, or just like so you have to say the command phrases, but I'm wondering if maybe like she teaches him how to write and he's so powerful that he can still do things. If that makes any sense, like he could write the commands on paper and it still work just like, because he's like so incredibly powerful.
How do they give breath? They can't talk because you got to say that phrase.
Right.
And so like the God Kings have given their breath, so like, which I don't think they gave it like the priest said they did. Again, we can get into that later, but I definitely think that there's some way you can do it.
Yeah, there has to be for them to give those breaths to the next God King. But then he's also at the fifth heightening. He's at the 10th heightening, right?
Yeah, he's of the 10th heightening. the
So
highest.
Which I'm assuming is the
he's
last
immortal.
heightening.
Yes, it's the last one. It's over 50,000 breaths.
Damn. But so he's immortal. So when Siri brought up the thing where it's like, well, why do they even need an heir? Like, you're immortal. What does it matter? And then he's talking about the history of the God Kings and like the other ones dying. That was the biggest. I mean, there had been so many clues up to that point, but that was the biggest thing where I was like, oh, the priests are really up to something. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's literally no way that these God Kings would have died ever if not for interference. Like somebody killing them,
Yeah,
more than likely.
Well, yeah, well, exactly. Well, I feel like it's got something to do with the kids. As soon as they have a kid, it seems like they get rid of them. But it's like, what's the point? Like, is there maybe like there has to be a reason? Like, why get rid of someone that you've already like trained to do what you want? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and why put all these breaths in this one person and make them like literally a god,
yeah.
and then take
Well,
away
it
their
says
ability to exercise their power?
so. Here's the other thing. It says that the gods don't age, but the God King does. So I'm wondering if maybe the God King, if he gets too old, they've got to get rid of him and have another God King so that the people don't notice. Because it talks about
He
Well, no,
ages
but
slower. So he's like 50 right now, but he has like a
right,
20-year-old body.
but he still ages.
Right, yeah.
And the other gods, I believe, don't age at all.
Correct.
So I'm
so
wondering if
holding the
maybe
breaths maybe
well
ages him.
I'm wondering if he doesn't actually have uh the return, if he's not actually returned, if he's just holding all that
Oh
breath.
yeah. Well, they say that he's a stillborn
Right.
child that returned,
Well, they
but
can
then they
say
could
whatever
just
they want. And
they could
it's
just be
true.
bullshitting.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think honestly maybe he's just holding tens of thousands of breaths
And not a returned. Yeah,
and
I mean
not a
that could
return.
definitely make sense.
Because also if he can speak commands and stuff, it says the returns can't speak commands.
Yeah, or else
They
they'll
can
die.
they'll die. If they release their breath, they die because they've only got the one powerful one or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious if they did the God Kings strat and took in 2 a week, would they like eventually reach similar levels of power, or like what's
I'm assuming that all the heightenings are the same for everybody, but it says that the God King's got 10. Like to get that amount of breaths, like it would take a while probably.
Right.
They're basically using the God King as a bank. I feel like.
yeah, but then like we were saying, like how does he pass those breaths on with
Exactly.
no
How do you
tongue?
Yeah,
Yeah, fair enough.
that's the question.
Fair enough.
isn't it?
I'm also wondering
Also
why
the
they
brain of
can't
a
leave
child.
the court. I know that if they leave for longer than 8 days and don't get a breath, they die. But like, it seems like they're really like interested in making these people stay at the court.
Yeah, that's another thing that's been a little odd for me. I don't know if that's supposed to be a mystery or if it's just
It's
kind
just
of
like
a plot hole.
is what it
Like,
is.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like, hey, this is a fact. Yeah.
Or maybe
yeah.
there happens to be some priest with some control issues.
Yeah.
Possible. I don't want what
Also
I'm controlling to get
possible.
out. Yeah. Another thing I noticed is so like the God King always wears white and stuff, but then the chamber where they're trying to have the kid is all black, and Siri even mentioned, I forgot the quote, but it's basically like let's see if I can find it. I wrote it
Oh,
down.
where he's like wearing the white and it's like shearing off into different colors, and she's like, "Why isn't everything in here white instead of black?"
Yeah, but the deal is she's like, and not only that is because it's the only place that's all black, but it's also outside of the God King's palace. She says that it's outside of the palace. It's the only thing that's all black, and I don't know. I just thought that was weird. I'm wondering if black has something to do with that.
Well, my theory that I'll give to y'all was that they didn't want Siri kissing him. They didn't want her looking at him because if she saw his tongue, then they were gonna know. And the God King like makes the colors that are around him more vibrant. And so if he's in all black, he's in complete darkness, basically, because he basically,
that makes sense.
goes over
So,
all
like,
the
she
colors
can't see
around him. So it makes it harder for Ciri to see, that, he's missing the tongue or whatever and things like that. So that was my theory whenever I came to this place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make some sense too. But yeah, you're right. It could just be like a channeling thing. Like maybe if there's no color around him, maybe somehow the breaths get channeled. Almost like the black is like a silicon die, like a like a motherboard or CPU. Like it's channeled somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like Ciri, going back to Ciri, I feel like she's reacting the way that Vivenna should have. Like she's really adaptable to it. Like she learned about it, but like I don't know. And I know that's her character. Like it mentions at the beginning that she likes color and all that stuff, but like I feel like that's how whoever was getting sent should have been. Like I feel like that's the right choice.
I really liked how whenever Ciri found this out, she like, I'm marching straight to the library. I'm getting a book. She's like, I want this book now. Someone give it to me. And everyone's like, hey, yo, like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, and she's like figuring out that, oh, I don't have any power.
Right.
And then she figures out that Sisebron doesn't have any power. So like she's pretty certain that the priests are the ones in control.
So maybe it was almost better for Ciri to come and not Vivenna, because Vivenna would have been so minded that the gods have all the power and the God King has all of the power, where Ciri now is going in with no training whatsoever and gets to figure things out for her own and gets to figure them out correctly from the beginning.
Yeah.
I still don't
Go ahead.
I still don't feel like we'd see a kid. These priests are really unrealistic. This guy doesn't know about sex, that you can't touch each other, you can't look at each other, you can't kiss. Like, I feel like wanting a kid and having all that is like really unrealistic. Like, what do y'all think's gonna happen? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't give him any sex ed, but they're like, you'll make an error, I guess.
Yeah, and so you're not allowed to do anything. Like, what?
Yeah. He's like, well, I don't know. We just spend the night together, right? I mean, it was cool seeing you naked and all, but like, we just in the same
I really
room,
like that
right?
part.
That was fucking ridiculous. I was so glad that the God King thing, the whole, like, I guess first time that we're in her POV when she has to go to that chamber, I was like, Sanderson wouldn't write this. Sanderson wouldn't write this. Sanderson wouldn't write this. And then it got to the part where she figures out that his tongue is ripped out and he's a child, and I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts. I just want you to imagine that you're the God King in this scenario. You have no idea what sex is. You don't know anything about it. And Ciri's just had enough, walks over to the bed, starts shaking it and moaning. Like, what is going through your brain right there?
I was cooking when I listened to that scene, and I almost dropped all the shit I was carrying to the dish pit laughing.
He's like, I think this is how this goes. How long do I do this for?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the God King's over there like, what the fuck?
yeah, like, what is happening? Like, she was like, there was fear on his face. Like, oh no, she's like, I'm gonna die.
She's possessed by a demon.
Is this when the kid comes out?
He thought it was a summoning ritual.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Y'all have anything else you want to say about Ciri or Sisebron?
Should we talk about Bluefingers and Trelodies while we're talking about her?
Yes, we definitely should.
I know. I feel like they're part of different factions for sure.
Oh, definitely, right? Like the Trelodies has to be like one of the leaders of the priests, if not the leader of the priests. It seems like, and then Bluefingers is like an enemy. Like, I don't know. It seems like this other country that is like part of Hallandren but not part of Hallandren.
Yeah,
really does not like the God King and the Returned.
Right.
Well, he says I don't believe in the iridescent tones, which is the religion. Like he says that straight out, and like is wanting her not to have a kid, and talks about the factions in the palace and how there's a bunch of them, and he's a part of a lot of them. So I feel like he's almost a spy.
Right. Well, think of it kind of like, because he wears brown robes, whereas all the other priests wear like vibrant robes or things like that of their god's color. I kind of think of it more as like Bluefingers is a scientist. And that's why he's here, is to study the biochroma and all this stuff. Whereas the priests are there out of devotion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I kind of see the difference between the two. But Bluefingers is still there. And so, and he's kind of acting as Ciri's only friend right now. Although you can make an argument for Lightsong, but
right. And Trelades, I feel like, is the person that's actually running everything. Like, I feel like he's the actual like king. Quote. Yeah,
he's the puppet master behind the figurehead.
Right. Well, I mean, Ciri goes to the library to get a book, and Trelades shows up instantly.
Immediately. Yeah. So. And then one quote I noticed that was I think it was in one of Avenna's chapters. They talk about how the priests run a lot of the trade in the city, and so like it seems like the priests are just running everything behind. Like, oh, we're running it all for the God King, but obviously they're not. So it feels like the priests are like just really have their hand in everything, and I'm wondering what their motive is. Like, I'm wondering if it's just greed and power, or if like they're like actually have some ulterior motive.
It kind of almost reminds me of like Salt from last month. Like
Oh yeah.
Like he's got all these like surface level motivations, but it's so obvious that that's not what is actually going on with him.
Yeah.
Like you know that nothing he's saying is honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bluefingers, he seems almost like he's going to end up being like the wise mentor or something with Ciri. Like he knows what's going on, and he like has some level of like empathy for her.
I feel like he's going to probably help. I think at some point she's going to have to get her and the God King out, and I feel like he's going to help.
Yeah.
Maybe with Lightsong.
Yeah. If I could wish list something
wants to help her. Lightsong wants to help her.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Lightsong wants to help her. He just doesn't want her to die for no reason.
I thought at one point it said like
they're gonna eat her alive. Basically, was
I thought he said at one point, I like her. I need to go mess with this political shit to make sure nothing bad happens to her.
I don't know if he necessarily went that far, but I think that was kind of the sentiment.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like definitely the one that sees her as a person and not an object.
Yeah.
Like not a political plaything, but like just a 17-year-old girl.
Yeah, well, she calls him a schoolboy, and he loves it.
Yeah. Oh, but I was going to say, if I could wish list two things for the next half of the book, is more Vasher and more Ciri and Sisebron.
Okay.
Like if I get those two things, I imagine I will be much more happy with the second half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wanting probably like more, maybe a little more action, and then like I want more like Denth and Vasher storyline. Like I want to figure out what happened between those two and why he killed Arsteel and all that.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, we've kind of talked about some of our theories and stuff like that throughout the episode. Do you guys have any more?
I think I said a lot of mine.
Yeah, I think I got all mine out.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Before we go into our Cosmere Connections segment, we'll go ahead and wrap up here for you non-Cosmere readers. So make sure to
and
share.
We'll announce our next book.
Oh, yeah. Well, go ahead and announce our next book.
Okay. So I get to pick this month's book, and I set some stipulations for what I wanted to pick, because we have a lot of options. We got a whole list, and there's a lot of them I want to read, but I wanted something that was probably kind of an easier read, because I feel like these last two books have been a little more
dense,
a little more dense.
I
wanted a little more dense. And then I wanted something that none of us have read, so like we can't spoil anything, and then also we're all surprised when we come into this. And then I wanted a little bit more of a classical fantasy type setting. And
Tolkien-esque, maybe?
Yeah. Something like that. And then I think I had another stipulation, but I forgot it.
So we're reading Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, right?
Yeah, we're Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, extended edition. No, I picked Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, and I've read a book of his before, and I really loved it. So I think this is gonna be a good book.
Okay.
It's supposed to be about half vampire, and he hunts other vampires, and he's like in prison, and that's how the book starts, and he's telling us how he got there.
Right. And this is the first book that none of us have read going into the podcast, right?
Right.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons I picked it.
So we're all going to be reading along with all the listeners at the same time. So it's going to be interesting.
So I think this would be a good one for if you have friends that you want to get into fantasy reading. Maybe suggest this one and have us
Sounds
all
like
read it together.
pulpy fun.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm hoping. It's a little more fast paced and a little more easier to get into, less dense. I don't know that for sure because, like I said, I haven't read it, but like the reviews I looked at, it should be pretty good for that. So if you have somebody you want to get into fantasy,
This might be the book for
All
him.
right.
this might be the book.
Well, make sure you share, like, subscribe, follow, do all those on your preferred platform. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Share with your friends. Also, the YouTube comments are open to discussions about, things that we talked about on this episode, things that we didn't talk about on this episode, but we're still in the section of reading. So if you, want to chat about some stuff in there, maybe leave a comment down below about, something that stood out to you or things like that. Also leave a comment of a question. Again, big thanks to Riley A for this episode's question. And
Yeah,
if
that was
you
a
guys
great
want
question.
if you guys want your questions answered, go ahead and leave them in the YouTube comments down below. Next episode, we are going to be reading chapter 27 to the end of Warbreaker. So we'll have the full book discussion, but again, we'll focus a lot more on kind of like that section, but we will have an overall discussion of the book as well, give our ratings and things like that. But yeah, that's everything. So again, we're going to have the Cosmere connections after this, so I'll give you guys some time to click off. The outro music will go, but we'll come back. So thank you guys.
Would they have needed to read to stay for the Cosmere connections?
Oh, if you want to stay, if you want to stay for the Cosmere connections, we're going to be discussing all the way up to Oathbringer Part 4. Whitson's going to stay with us. He hasn't read that far, but he's going to dip out right when we talk about the things that
Something
are
important.
Something important. So, but yeah, so you can stay tuned with us, and if you haven't read that far, you can dip out whenever Whitson dips out. So, thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. We hope you have a good one.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
And all right, so Cosmere connections.
I think that Wit is Lightbringer. He mentions
Light
song. He mentions multiple times he uses the word wit and witty in a way that is almost foreshadowing, which I know this book was written before, but then at another point, just his humor and he said something at another point that made me just think that's wit. I forgot what it was. I wish I remembered it, and I could be completely wrong in left field. I've said wits like.
I was gonna ask you guys what you thought. I was gonna ask you guys what you thought about, Wit, because I know that before, Dylan especially, you've been a huge fan of Wit and you've wanted to know more about him, and so
I love Wit.
I was curious if you had anything possibly tying in.
His humor, Lightsong's humor is and it might just be he might have been the precursor character for who Wit actually is later, but
right.
Imagine if Lightsong's the one that because he's interested in the sword. What if he takes the sword to this world, becomes Wit, the sword's out there, What if?
Well,
what if?
Okay.
I think I have a directly contradictory theory of that, which has nothing to do with Cosmere tie-ins. I think that Sanderson has a self-insert in every book that is an apathetic, funny character.
Okay.
I think that is his self-insert in all of his books, because every one of his books has an apathetic, charming character like that.
Okay.
Whether it's like Kelsier
That's
or
fair,
Wit or Lightsong.
But it just feels the same person did write it, but it just feels so similar, like their humor and Every time, like I swear to God, he said the word wit or witty 10 times, and every
I
time he
mean,
did, I was like,
Light
ah.
Song is also kind of witty, you know. So,
Yeah.
I want to read to you both a small quote from Words of Radiance. This is Kaladin's perspective right after he gets arrested for challenging Amaram to a duel, and he's put in prison, and Wit shows up. Okay?
Okay.
Kaladin sat back down on the bench in his cell. Wit wore his black on black, the thin silver sword undone from his waist and sitting on the bench beside him. A brown sack slumped there as well. Wit leaned down to tune his instrument, one leg crossed over the other. He hummed softly to himself and nodded. Perfect pitch, Wit said. Makes this all so much easier than it used to be.
Oh, so he's got breath for sure, which we knew that anyways.
Well, you guys knew that anyways, but I already spoiled that for myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's okay.
So,
But okay, so
That's
I have a
interesting. I
dense
love how there's
theory.
so many. Okay.
And I just want to get mine out before you guys get to the actual, like the thing that I can't hear.
yeah.
So Denth and Vasher, I kind of just think might have a different kind of investiture that's not like Stormlight or Breath, maybe.
Okay.
Like Vasher definitely has Breath, but like I'm thinking Denth maybe because I don't know how you. I mean, Stormlight makes you faster, but it doesn't make you that fast, right? Like inhumanly, like because he killed 2 guys before anybody knew he even drew his sword.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he just draws his sword and 2 guys drop dead. So I'm thinking it's not
And that
Stormlight
probably
and
wasn't
it's not
his
Breath.
fastest either.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah,
He's not whipping out the God
didn't even
Killer
try.
mode on like. He's not going fucking Super Saiyan 8 or whatever to kill two
Yeah.
backwater thieves.
Yeah.
But I just think he has like some other kind of investiture, and maybe that's like him and Vasher are old and have been fighting on like different worlds in the Cosmere, maybe.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. They're both from different worlds too.
Yeah, I think
That's
that would be really
interesting.
interesting.
That would be a really cool concept for a book. Just have like multiple books going on, and then there's these characters that jump from world to world and have
Just
a part
fighting
in
each other.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you know,
That
Ari Salvatore kind of sort of did that. I mean, it's all in the Forgotten Realms, but the assassin, oh, what's his name? I can't remember his name. There's this assassin that just randomly shows up in like 6 of the books, and like every
Yeah.
time you think he's dead, and then he just randomly shows up,
Yeah.
and it has almost no impact on the story either. He just kind of wanders in.
Shows up. Yep.
It's like, oh, hey, there's that swordsman that I really hate.
Yeah. What about Nightblood? What do you think about Nightblood?
So,
Where are you at in Oathbreaker?
61, chapter 61.
Okay, but like, what are they doing?
They just got into Kolinar, into the safe house in Kolinar.
okay.
What's Seth doing?
I know that Nail has Nightblood. That's what I know about Nightblood. I know Nail has Nightblood.
Okay.
Or did he give it to Seth?
Yes.
Yes, he gave it to Seth.
Okay,
You didn't read Edge
yeah, I know
Dancer,
that
did
part.
No.
No, I read the like full spoiler synopsis for it.
Mhm.
It mentioned his character in that.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are you saying, Matt?
So on Nightblood, when Lightsong's investigating the thing, it says that he looked at the soldier's hand. He said, "And your hand." The man paused, unconsciously retracting his hand. It got twisted. The man slowly extended his hand. The hand was completely gray, drained of color. Does that sound like a shard blade passing through and basically kind of like disabling?
Oh, yeah, it does.
I hadn't even thought about that. Gray and lifeless.
What if that's what a shard blade does? Like it just takes your color.
Or cuts the breath off.
So I think that your breath, anyways, is life force. I think it's a person's life force.
Okay.
They want to call it a soul, but I think it's just
Right.
life force in general. And we know that. Well, me and Matt know something.
well, I'll hit you with something else, kind of putting on what Whitson was saying. If you remember, Kaladin in the first fight with Seth in I believe it's in Words of Radiance before the big epic one, where Seth slices through Kaladin's hand.
Yeah, he
his
heals
arm,
it.
and he heals it. What, along with what Whitson said about the with oh gosh, what was I saying? With it being breaths or whatever, Kaladin heals it with Stormlight.
Mm-hmm.
Could breaths,
which you have to breathe in.
which
You have to breathe. Yeah.
Could breaths possibly make something without breath, like a colorless hand, drained of color, bring it back?
Well, okay, are we assuming that
What if
everybody that's
Stormlight-
listening to this has knows the rules of the Cosmere? Because investiture is pretty well explained at this point,
Right.
without you even having to read any of the books.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't are we spoiling anything if we talk
can
about investiture?
Yeah, we can spoil and talk about investiture.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of the forms of investiture, but it all comes from the same place, right? It's all the. I mean, I don't know the lore specifics of it. I think they're called shards. Hey, is that right?
I think you're right.
But yeah, so they're all coming from the same place. It's like some kind of universal life force, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just different manifestations of the same thing.
All right.
So Stormlight and breath are kind of equatable, it seems
Right.
like.
I'll hit you with
But
another
you
one
can
that
store
might be
breath.
kind of equatable that I kind of had the connection to. So you know how their hair color kind of changes with emotions? So Ciri's hair kind of changes when she gets anxious to white or
Yeah.
something. As I was reading that, it kind of reminds me how the Parshindi attune to the rhythm of
rhythms.
anxiety, the rhythm, they'll attune to that. See, the royal hair kind of changes rather than attunes. It kind of reminded me of the same thing.
Oh, the Red Panther. That gave me Parshindi vibes. The scene with that he was
In the
talking
storm,
about with
the
red.
Panthers in the storm.
Yeah, the Panther in the storm, the Red Panther in the storm.
Red also could be the
Well, red's the color of odium.
odium. Yeah.
So
And we know odium was somewhere first. We know odium. We know all three of them. Odium. Oh, does Whitson know this?
Yeah, I know it.
Okay,
Not from Oathbringer, but I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that all three of them, the three gods, or whatever.
Cultivation, honor, and odium.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know they were somewhere first. So what if they're a part of this and they come from here and they're the ones that take the sword?
I don't know.
I don't know. You said that real suspiciously there, MD.
That sounded a little
I
sussy.
definitely, Dylan, have something that will possibly answer that, but Whitson cannot be here for that one, unfortunately, because Whitson hasn't finished Oathbringer yet. Which for those listening, Dylan and I have just finished Dawnshard, which is right after Oathbringer. We have not gone on to Rhythm of War. We're waiting for Whitson to catch up with us. So
we're all gonna read it together.
I'm trying.
I
had to
think
drop
we're gonna
Oathbringer. Good.
I think we're gonna make episodes for it, aren't we? For Rhythm of War.
we
Yeah,
could.
we haven't decided how we want to do that. If people want to leave recommendations for how they'd like us to drop that, because it's the fourth book in a series, so
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that anybody who listened to it would have read up to that point.
Yeah, we could do it as bonus episodes, or we were talking
Yeah.
about the Patreon thing, or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, but we're definitely gonna read Rhythm of War together and record episodes around it.
I know I cannot wait for Whitson to get to the scene with the scene. You know that?
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know
I know you're talking about. I know what you're talking
yeah.
about.
Oh,
All right. Do you guys have any other?
expect a phone call at work.
Let me think if I had anything else that
Anything
ties
else?
in. Oh, the returned. The Parshindi taking on the Spren that are immortal. like I thought maybe there's some kind of connection there. Like maybe the
Oh.
returned are
Yeah.
taking on this world's version of Spren instead of like their original soul.
Could be,
Perhaps. I mean, I don't know, because Lightsong has like he apparently has some memories of his past
which I'm really
swimming
interested
around
in
in
that too.
there. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
interested in that.
He wants to figure out what else he can learn about himself. So something else I forgot about that I was going to mention earlier. These visions they have. So the returned are technically dead. Maybe they're like the death visions that are in
Oh, yeah,
Stormlight.
Stormlight.
Oh.
Because they're technically dead and they're getting like that same kind of vision thing that the people have right before they die. That
Yeah, and Teravangian even says which god that's coming from. It's like a minor god or like a major Spren, basically. He says which one it is. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember
yeah, he
either.
says it's because of the movements of one of the Spren. So maybe that Spren is on this planet in this time.
All right.
And like, but yeah, the returned maybe having like the same at least like functionality where like a spirit is taking over their body and now they're like somehow like more invested, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, the returned I think could have like broader Cosmere tie-ins. But that's all I really got. If it's time for me to bug off, are y'all about to talk some spoilers?
I
Yeah,
think
you
if that's
suck.
everything, then yeah, you can go
All right,
ahead and
all right.
drop out.
Deuces.
Thank you so much, Whitson.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Bye.
should have finished Oathbringer.
I know. It'll be done by this weekend. I promise. I'm about to sit down in bed and read it right now.
I genuinely think, Whitson, that you're going to pick up on a lot more stuff because of the section of Oathbringer you're going to read
Yeah.
for the next Cosmere tie-in episode. So
For
I'm
sure.
I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, where I'm at right now, they've just found all those crystals with the recordings on them, but they haven't figured out how to read them yet. So I'm assuming a lot of things are about to get broken down.
Oh, he's just gone.
Later.
All right. We'll see you, Whitson.
I accidentally clicked out of the call, but yeah, I was hovering over the exit button. But yeah, that's all for me. Okay,
All right.
thanks, guys.
See you, Whitson.
Yep, later.
He leaves. He joins. No, I'm joking.
Yep.
Okay,
Try to
so
sneak in and listen.
Dylan, I
What's up?
have something here that is a
Mhm.
connection that I don't think that you have made. And it might take some layering and some theorizing, but I want to read to you first. It's about the painting in chapter 26, right?
Okay.
In our show notes, you see that I put the painting chapter 26.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Real
Yeah.
quickly, I'm just going to read what the painting looks like to Lightsong, okay?
Okay.
Lightsong stared at the painting. Red upon red, shades so subtle that the painter must have been of the first heightening at least. Violent, terrible reds clashing against one another like waves. Waves that only vaguely
Anger
resembled
spread?
men,
Or not?
that somehow managed to convey the idea of armies fighting much better than any detailed realistic depiction would have. Chaos. Bloody wounds upon bloody
Oh,
uniforms.
okay.
Upon bloody skin. There was so much violence in red, his own color. He almost felt as if he were in the painting, felt its turmoil shaking him, disorienting him, pulling on him. The waves of men pointed toward a figure at the center, a woman, vaguely depicted by a couple of curved brushstrokes, and yet it was obvious. She stood high as if atop a cresting wave of crashing soldiers, caught in motion, head flung back, her arm upraised, holding a deep black sword that darkened the red sky around it.
Odium, because we see at the end of Oath. Is it Bringer or Breaker? I keep messing it up.
Oathbringer.
Oathbringer. We see that he wants the black sword. He
Right.
gets the sheath, and he's talking about how he wants his champion to carry the sword. So,
Right.
if Odium is the red, if the red sprint, or if the red is Odium and his chaos sprint, and maybe the person holding the sword was his champion.
Okay.
Is that maybe what you were thinking?
Which was a woman. Okay. I mean, sure. We'll keep going here. And remember, Lightsong's like, well, what do you see, Scoop? and he was like, well, this is the Battle of Twilight Falls, the last conflict of the Mini War. He said, Laramir said he just sees like brushstrokes, like it doesn't look like anything to him, but because Laramir is a god, he sees things that, you know, can be channeled. Like he sees things because he looks at the painting, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas Laramir only sees like brushstrokes or whatever. Okay, so that's Warbreaker. That was the painting, right? Oh, and specifically, Lightsong said, have this one brought to my collection, don't have it burned, right? Which normally the paintings are burned. Okay.
Yeah.
I have here opened up Oathbringer. This is chapter 102. Currently, Kaladin and his friends are in Shadesmar. And he is in the town. And he passes someone selling art.
He sees the painting.
Kaladin had never had much time for art. Either the picture depicted something useful like a map, or it was basically pointless. And yet, nestled among the paintings for display was a small one, painted from thick strokes of oil, white and red with lines of black. When he looked away, he found himself drawn back toward it, studying the way the highlights played off those dark lines. Like 9 shadows, he thought, with a figure kneeling in the middle.
So what if Shadesmar is the world that this... What if these people are basically Spren?
So,
but something happens and they change. What if Shadesmar is this world?
So that's not only it. So fast forward a couple pages because, you know, changing perspectives. Kaladin steps up to the painting. Studies it a bit more. Perfectly capturing its human subjects. Blah, 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 blah. Where's it at? Hauntingly beautiful shapes, mostly reds and whites, but with a figure at the center throwing out 9 shadows.
Oh.
Marvelous, isn't it? A Spren said. Kaladin jumped, sheepishly lowering his fingers. The proprietor of this stall, it was a Reacher woman short with a bronze ponytail. It's a unique piece, human, she said. From the far-off court of gods. A painting intended only for the divinity to see. It is exceptionally rare that one escaped being burned at the court and makes its way into the market. This is a piece by Nenefra. It is said that each person who sees one of his masterworks sees something different. And to think I charge such a minuscule price, blah, blah, blah. So, what do you think?
It says at the court. It would make so much sense if Shadesmar is the world that we're in right now. I don't know how they end up changing shape and all that, because obviously Spren have to take different shapes, but it mentions that in Shadesmar, all the Spren are fighting each other. They've all got their own like hierarchy stuff.
Okay.
It makes sense that the wit and the sword and all that stuff's in the other world. I don't even know what to call the other world, but the real world. And then it also the breath thing makes sense now because they are inhabiting the other people's bodies and letting them breathe in Stormlight, which comes from Shadesmar, which could be breath.
All right.
That makes like so much sense.
I will let you know when we finish Warbreaker, you're going to have some very clear connections.
I feel like that's so right now that you brought all that up, though, because there's just too many parallels. There's too many crossovers that make so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
All I can't figure out is like how Shadesmar became what it is from now to then.
Okay. You got anything else?
I'm just really interested. I don't know. There's so much other shit though too, because I didn't even think about like the humans coming up. Which originally though the Parshendi bonded with the Spren.
Right, like they had them in their gem hearts or whatever.
Right. So maybe. That's interesting.
It is very interesting. Well, if that's all, I just wanted to make that connection with you that the painting that Lightsong sees, that Laramir, I'll say this again, Laramir thinks Lightsong's talking about the future, and there might be a big battle ahead or something like that, was also the same painting that Kaladin sees and thinks he's seeing, possibly the future. Maybe not. Maybe this painting has a double meaning for both books. I don't know.
Next time on.
I will say, for the next Cosmere Connections, Whitson's probably going to make a connection that you did not make, and it's going to blow your mind.
Makes me want to go listen to the end of Oathbreaker.
Maybe, I don't know. But with that, we'll go ahead and end our Cosmere Connections section. Again, please share, subscribe, and follow.
Thanks, everybody.
Keep the YouTube comments spoiler-free for the Cosmere Connections. Yeah, we will see you guys next episode for the end of Warbreaker. Y'all have a good one.
Later.